This audiobook will change you forever. David Goggins Can't Hurt Me review. There are audiobooks that entertain you. There are audiobooks that motivate you. And then there is David Goggins Can't Hurt Me, an audiobook that reaches inside you, pulls out every excuse you've ever made, and holds you accountable in a way no one else ever has. This isn't just a story. This is a transformation you hear. Today, we're diving into the most brutally honest, emotionally powerful audiobook you'll ever experience, and why it changes people permanently. Why the audiobook hits differently. Can't Hurt Me in print is powerful, but the audiobook, that's an entirely different universe. It's raw, it's unfiltered, it's intimate. David Goggins doesn't just tell his story, he relives it. His voice cracks when he talks about his childhood trauma. He goes quiet when remembering the fear, the loneliness, the abuse. He grows intense when describing the battles he fought inside his own head. Every pause, every breath, every shift in his tone. You feel it. You aren't reading about a man's transformation. You're listening to him become who he is. The podcast commentary that elevates everything. But what really separates this audiobook from all others is the podcast-style commentary between chapters. Narrator Adam Skolnick stops the story, looks at Goggins and says, "Hold on, you actually did that?" And then Goggins goes deeper. He adds stories that weren't in the book. He explains his mindset. He breaks down the psychology. He laughs. He gets emotional. He gets fired up. This commentary feels like you're in the room with him. And it turns the audiobook into a personal conversation about pain, identity, and resilience. This is where the listener stops being a spectator and becomes a participant. The childhood that forged him. One of the most emotional parts of the audiobook is hearing Goggins talk about his childhood. The beatings, the fear, the racism, the loneliness. You hear the trauma in his voice, not just the facts, but the emotional scars behind them. This isn't a superhero origin story. This is a broken child who grew into a broken man, and then decided to rebuild himself one brutal piece at a time. Listening to it hurts, but it hurts in the way truth always does. It forces you to face your own childhood wounds, your insecurities, your doubts. Because Goggins makes it clear he wasn't born extraordinary. He became extraordinary through honesty and pain. The accountability mirror. When Goggins describes the moment he stood in front of the mirror, 300 pounds, depressed, insecure, the audiobook shifts. You can hear the desperation in his voice. You can hear the shame. And then you hear the decision. He looked himself in the eye and said, "No more lying, no more hiding, no more pretending." He wrote down every flaw, every weakness, every truth he had been avoiding. And for the first time in his life, he faced himself. Hearing him say it out loud makes you ask a painful question. When was the last time you were brutally honest with yourself? Hell Week and the birth of a new identity. A Hell Week, the infamous Navy SEAL crucible. Reading about it is wild. Hearing Goggins talk about it is visceral. The cold, the sleep deprivation, the physical breakdown, the hallucinations, the brutality. But the most powerful moment? When Goggins realized something that changed his life, they can't hurt me anymore. This wasn't physical toughness. This was identity. This was rebirth. And you hear it happen in real time. The 100-mile race that broke his body but freed his mind. Then comes the race that made Goggins a legend. 100 miles, no training, on broken legs. His voice trembles as he describes the agony. He grows quiet when remembering the doubt. He becomes fierce when talking about the moment he refused to quit. This chapter is the emotional core of the audiobook, not because of what his body endured, but because of what his spirit discovered. Pain is not a wall. Pain is a doorway, and most of us will never walk through it. The 40% rule. The 40% rule is famous. When your mind tells you you're done, you're only at 40%. Reading that is inspiring. Hearing Goggins say it, with the conviction of a man who lived it, shatters you. You suddenly feel the weight of every moment you quit early, every time you held back, every time you chose comfort over growth. This rule hits harder when spoken because you hear the truth in his voice. The softness you don't expect. For all his intensity, some of the most emotional moments are when Goggins speaks softly, when he talks about his mother, when he reflects on failure, when he remembers the child he used to be. These moments remind you he's not a machine. He's not invincible. He's human. And that humanity makes the entire journey feel sacred. The aftermath. How the audiobook changes you. When the audiobook ends, something strange happens. You feel exposed. You feel uncomfortable. You feel awakened. You start catching your excuses. You start questioning your comfort. You start recognizing your potential. Goggins becomes a voice in your head, not judging you, but challenging you. Because once you hear his truth, you can't pretend you don't know yours. The reason this audiobook changes lives. Can't Hurt Me isn't just a memoir. It's not just motivation. It's not just entertainment. It's an emotional confrontation, a mirror, a guide, a rebirth. David Goggins doesn't tell you to admire him. He tells you to become the version of yourself that you've been avoiding. His final message echoes long after the audiobook ends. You are capable of more. Stop living small. This book won't just change the way you think. It will change the way you live. Stay hard. Call to action. If you found this review powerful, subscribe for more deep dive breakdowns of the books, ideas, and stories that transform lives. Drop a comment if you've listened to Goggins. And tell me the moment that hit you the hardest. And if you haven't heard the audiobook yet, do it. Your future self will thank you.